My army husband sent me divorce papers while I was deployed. Then he showed up at my mom's funeral. The email hit my inbox at 2:13 a.m. Most of what came through our overseas base was pretty normal: supply updates, mission briefings, or the occasional family photo from home. But the second I saw the subject line, my stomach dropped. Divorce documents. Signature required. I stared at the screen for almost a full minute before I finally opened it. My name is Captain Elena Brooks. I'm 34, and I've spent 12 years in the United States Army. I've been places most people only hear about on the news. I've learned how to stay calm under pressure, make fast decisions, and keep moving through stuff that would have wrecked me years ago. But nothing in the Army prepared me for what my husband sent next. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of living alone. Sign the papers and let's end this peacefully. 3 sentences. 10 years of marriage, cut down to 3 sentences. I leaned back in the metal chair inside the communications tent and closed my eyes. Around me, generators hummed and soldiers moved in and out with gear. Everything kept going like my whole life hadn't just split in half. My husband, Ryan, had always said he understood military life. He knew deployments came with the territory when he married me. He stood next to me in uniform at our wedding and said he was proud of my service. Apparently, that didn't last forever. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I opened the attachment and read every page of the divorce filing. Irreconcilable differences. Emotional abandonment. Separation caused by military service. That last line hit the hardest. Like serving my country was some selfish little hobby I'd picked over my family. My phone rang before I could even answer. It was my younger sister, Megan. "Lena," she said, and I could hear the panic in her voice right away. Mom collapsed at church. They took her to St. Mary's. I was already on my feet before she even finished. "What happened?" "They think it might have been a stroke. She keeps asking for you." It felt like all the air got sucked right out of my lungs. My mom, Diane Brooks, raised my sister and me on her own after our dad left when I was 8. She worked 2 jobs for years so I could go to college before I joined the Army. Every promotion I got felt like a win for both of us. And now she was in a hospital bed asking for me while I was 7,000 miles away. I asked for emergency leave before sunrise. The paperwork moved faster than I expected, but military flights don't exactly care about family emergencies. The earliest route home still took nearly 30 hours. 30 hours. When someone might be dying. I called the hospital from the base phone. Megan answered from my mom's room. "She's awake," my sister whispered. "But she's really weak." Put me on speaker. A few seconds later, I heard my mom breathing. "Mom?" Silence. Then a faint voice. "My soldier girl." My throat tightened instantly. "I'm coming home." "You always come home," she whispered. I smiled through tears she couldn't see. "I need you to keep fighting until I get there." She tried to laugh, but it turned into a cough. "Bossy," she said weakly. That was the last real conversation we ever had. On the flight home, I opened Ryan's email again. Somewhere over the Atlantic, with strangers asleep around me and military cargo secured below, I typed out a reply. "My mother is in the hospital after a stroke. I am coming home to bury my marriage and possibly my mother at the same time. If there is even a little bit of the man I married left in you, do not contact me again until after the funeral." I sent it and turned my phone off. When I landed in Tennessee, Megan was waiting at the airport. One look at her face told me everything. "She's gone," my sister whispered. I don't remember dropping my bag. I don't remember walking through the terminal. I only remember the sound that came out of me, a sound I had never made before and hope I never hear again. The funeral was set for 3 days later. The house filled up with casseroles, flowers, and relatives speaking in low voices. I spent hours sitting in my mom's favorite chair, staring out at the empty porch where she used to drink coffee every morning. Ryan never called. Honestly, part of me was relieved. Then the day of the funeral came. Rain fell steadily as people gathered under black umbrellas around the gravesite. I stood beside Megan in my dress uniform because my mom had always loved seeing me in it. The minister had just started speaking when I noticed movement near the back of the crowd. Ryan. He stood alone in a dark suit, soaked from the rain, looking thinner than I remembered. Megan saw him too. "What is he doing here?" she whispered. I didn't have an answer. Ryan waited until the service ended before coming over to me. His eyes were red, and I couldn't tell if it was from the rain or from crying. "Elena," he said quietly. I looked at him for a long moment. "You sent me divorce papers." "I know. My mother died while I was flying home." "I know." "Then explain why you're standing at her funeral." His jaw tightened. For a few seconds, he didn't say anything. Then he reached into his coat pocket and handed me a folded envelope. "What is this?" "Something your mother asked me to give you." My hands went numb. "She talked to you?" He nodded once. "The night before she died." I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a handwritten letter in my mom's familiar script. "Lena, if you're reading this, I didn't make it long enough to say goodbye the right way. First, stop blaming yourself. You were exactly where you were supposed to be. Serving other people has always been part of who you are. Second, your husband is an idiot, but he's not a bad man. There's a difference." I stared at the words through blurry eyes. "Ryan sat with me for 6 hours at the hospital while you were overseas. He thought I was asleep when he admitted he was scared. Not angry. Scared. He said he didn't know how to keep losing you to deployments and worrying every time the news mentioned soldiers overseas. I told him marriage isn't about finding someone who makes life easy. It's about finding someone worth getting through the hard seasons with. I don't know if your marriage can be saved. Maybe it can't. But don't make permanent decisions while your heart is buried with me. And Lena? Go sit on the porch once in a while. Life is shorter than we think. Love, Mom." By the time I finished reading, tears were running down my face. Ryan spoke carefully. "I filed the papers after 3 months of barely hearing from you. I convinced myself you had picked the army over us. I was deployed to a combat zone," I whispered. "I know that now. I was angry before I was honest." We stood there in the rain with my mother buried between us and the future completely up in the air. Finally, I folded the letter and looked at him. "I don't forgive you," I said. He nodded. "I know. But my mother spent her last night trying to save a marriage that both of us were helping destroy." For the first time, I saw a little bit of hope in his face. I took a slow breath and looked toward the porch of my mother's house in the distance. "Come have coffee," I said. "That's all I'm offering today." He swallowed hard and nodded. As we walked away from the cemetery, I realized something my mother had understood long before I did. Some battles aren't about choosing between duty and love. Sometimes the hardest battle is figuring out how to fight for both.